Welcome to Decades of Horror, the classic era.
You'll never catch a monkey that way.
This is episode 90, recorded January 3rd, 2021. I am your host, Jeff Mohr. On this podcast, we cover the good, the bad, and maybe even the ugly horror films released since the beginning of time through 1969. In each episode, we'll discuss the monsters, spirits, psychos, and villains that have haunted movie-going audiences since the dawn of film history. With me this week are my incredible co-hosts, Whitney Collazo, an accomplished artist, makeup artist, and writer. Whitney, how are you?
I'm good. I'm catching up on the time, too, and Happy New Year.
A Happy New Year to you, too. This won't come out for a couple weeks, but, yeah, we're recording this on January 3rd, our first classic era of 2021. Also with us today is Chad Hunt, co-host on Decades of Horror, the 70s and 1980s, film producer and director with Wreak Havoc Productions, and a comic book artist and writer. Chad, Happy New Year.
Same to you, Jeff, and same to everybody here. It's we need the new year. We need a new year. I don't think there's a magic switch that got flipped on January 1st, but hopefully it'll be a lot better year than the last.
Yeah, well, with the technical difficulties we had started this off.
Well, I didn't want to say anything about that.
Okay. But, that's it. Well, and by the way, our plan is to switch the video on the next episode. So stay tuned to the YouTube channel. Joseph Perry, due to other commitments, is off for, we did say the rest of 2020. But he is planning to be with us on our next episode, and we dearly miss him, but that gives us an opportunity to include guest hosts for a few episodes. So filling in this episode as guest host is Ed Martinez, who you may remember as the director of special effects for the 1980s classic The Dead Pit. We did an interview with him last summer and also with The Dead Pit on 1980s. So check those out. Ed, sure glad you could join us today. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much. And Happy New Year to everybody.
and the same to you. And in the interest of, IMDb type credits, I thank you to your technical expert, Nina, for helping get us connected.
Yeah.
Our software was not cooperating. All right, so we allowed our guest host to pick the film for their episode, and Ed has picked Son of Kong, directed by Ernest B. Schoedsack, story by Ruth Rose, starring Robert Armstrong, Helen, Mack, Frank Reicher, John Marston, Victor Wong, and special effects by Willis O'Brien, Buzz Gibson, and Mario Larrinaga. The man who captured the giant ape King Kong returned to Skull Island and finds his likewise gigantic but far more friendly son. That's true. So we hope you've seen this, but if not, you should stop and watch this. But we're going to talk this all the way through to the exciting end. We are. So this was an RKO Radio Pictures production, just as King Kong was. It was released December 22nd, 1933, and they really rushed this through. That was roughly, 9 months after the release of King Kong. It was also known as, kind of the working title was Jamboree. And actually, there is it does have sort of a identity crisis, because the actual title of the film, if you watch the film, the title is The Son of Kong. But for some reason, they dropped the from all of the advertising. So now it kind of becomes known mostly as Son of Kong. But either way, it was filmed at Santa Catalina Island and Santa Monica Pier in California. Production dates were listed as March 31st to August 22nd, 1933, and I'm sure that includes the stop motion work. The budget, and now this is where we get into these older films. I made the mistake of looking at multiple sources. IMDb says $250,000. Wikipedia says $269,000. And the domestic box office was listed at $616,000. Theatrical rentals gross since release was $1,342,000. But on Ultimate Movie Rankings, it says $900,000. So, all right, it appears to have made its money back. And now to our signature part of our podcast, the taglines.
Yay.
Chad, are you ready for this?
I'm as ready as I'm always ready to do taglines. Okay. Here we go, folks. And this, well, I'll just read them. The 12-foot ape befriended them on the island of King Kong. That's it.
That one's actually true. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's true,
Right.
and that's the whole plot of the whole movie. I'm going to combine the next two, okay?
Okay.
All right. You can almost read this as a sea, the cannibals, the earthquake, the sea serpent, the fighting monsters of ages past, the 12-foot ape with the human heart. We got everything? Okay, sign the manifest and ship them to New York.
So are they cannibals?
On the
I don't
island?
know. They didn't seem very hungry.
No.
Well, yeah, I would think that, you never know.
Let's not take anything for granted, but
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't think we ever see them eat anybody. But
They weren't afraid of him anyway. Hey, what's the big idea of throwing that spear at me? They didn't seem very, very afraid of
And the
him.
Peter Jackson one, I think they were definitely cannibals.
Yeah. Somebody was getting eaten in that movie. A lot of people were getting eaten in that movie. Okay. What does he look like? Can he love? How does he feel toward the men who captured his father, mighty King Kong? Now, these are all things I was asking myself during the movie.
we should ask him. We should have asked him.
Yeah. He would have just shrugged his shoulders.
He can practically talk in the movie.
Scratched his head. Yeah. You know what? I actually thought I heard him say, "I'm sorry" at the end.
Oh,
Didn't that sound like he was saying, "I'm sorry" that one time when the island was sinking? And anyway,
I never noticed that. I don't know.
Well, I don't think he did, and it would be just too weird to do that. But that's what my my old man ears.
He shouldn't be the
like.
one apologizing anyway.
Yeah.
They braved 1,000 perils to sail for buried gold. That ended up not being buried technically, but
They got a gem instead of gold.
Right, but another one, they always call it treasure or diamonds in the film, but in the tagline, it's gold.
Laughs, thrills, and pathos.
Plenty of laughs.
I think we've seen that one before.
Yeah, I think this is a standard. They have the one little marketing guy sitting in the corner. He goes, "Use the laughs, thrills, and pathos one again on this one."
These were not the greatest taglines, like many. Well, let's go to first impressions, or just in general. What's your opening thoughts on this film? And Ed, since you picked this, The Son of Kong, I'll let you go first.
Okay. Well, obviously, we don't have a whole lot of time, and there's so much to talk about in these films, in my opinion. I am the kind of person that I grew up, watching TV, and I'm somebody who saw Son of Kong and King Kong and Mighty Joe Young. I kind of feel like all three of those are a trilogy. And the, Son of Kong, obviously, I saw King Kong first, and then Son of Kong, I saw second, on television. And these are films to me that are so important. They make so much of my childhood and stuff. I mean, I am a special effects guy because of King Kong. And, Son of Kong is funnier, and it's not, scary, and, isn't got the budget. And I mean, Son of Kong is half the budget, a little less than half the budget of King Kong. And they went into production while King Kong was still in the movie theaters. They wanted to strike while the iron was hot and try to make a bunch of money because Kong was so successful. But, they really undercut this, and almost all of the creatures in it, I think except for the cave bear and maybe Son of Kong himself, were all built puppets prior to this. They were used in, I believe, in Creation, one of the first films that Willis O'Brien did. And then they were used as test, footage for King Kong. And some of them were not used in King Kong. But anyways, my first impressions are, I love it. I love King Kong. I love Son of Kong. I love Mighty Joe Young. And, what more can I say?
Okay. That's you know what? I'm kind of with you there. Whitney, what about you? What are your first impressions? And hey, when did you first see this movie?
Oh my
When
God.
I was a kid. When I was a kid.
Nice. Oh man. So I feel like I've seen pieces of this sometime when I was a kid, because my brother was more into King Kong and Godzilla and a bunch of different movies like that. But I feel like because of my brother and my cousins, I got sucked into watching some of those things. And my memory is vague of this, but I remember how cute he looked. And
Yeah.
I loved it for just knowing that he was more of like the friendly monster or creature or ape rather.
He's like the humble bumble, from...
Yes, definitely. I loved it. Yes, just because, I mean, I remember, adorable and still adorable. I don't know how many times we can really say that for anything horror. Really?
That's true. And cute and sweet and
Yes.
words like that. Yeah.
I love it. Yes.
Okay. Chad Hunt.
Yes.
How about yourself? First impression. When did you first see this?
I saw this as a kid too. I think I rented it at some point, if I'm not mistaken. Either I rented it or I saw it on TBS or one of those way back in the day. Very different from the original King Kong, but I still, as a kid, liked it a lot. This is more of a, like you said, it's funnier. It's more of a comedy, but it was also, as the years go by, I've sort of started considering it a bookend to King Kong, because it got a little bit more into the characters of Denham and even Captain Englehorn and Charlie, and all those guys. It got into their characters a little more and kind of made you see what made them tick a little bit, and so you're sort of going on this adventure with them, more or less. I mean, I don't think Little Kong shows up until the second half of the movie, even. So you're sort of getting used to these characters, invested in these characters. Helen Mack, you get introduced to her and the little flea circus and the little sideshow thing they've got going there, and it's just.
I know you love horror movies with song and dance routines, Chad.
Oh, I fast forwarded that. but
I was going to learn that song just for you, Chad. I'm kidding.
Oh, no. I'll warn you now, Whitney, I'll fast forward you in a heartbeat. I love you, but I'll fast forward you. But yeah, it's a great bookend to King Kong, I think. And when I watch King Kong, I always watch Son of Kong right after, for that effect, that closure effect.
Yeah, it's kind of like a trilogy with Mighty Joe Young.
Yeah, it is. And this one's more in the vein of Mighty Joe Young,
He's smaller than Kong.
Yeah. But I love this movie. It's different in every way from King Kong. but it's still an enjoyable film, and it's more of a where Kong was more had its scary moments and had its frightful moments. Son of Kong is just more of a straight up adventure film, and so
comedy.
Yeah, and the comedy of, I mean, what giant ape do you see shrug his shoulders and go, type thing, so yeah, there's some laughs there, and I'm sure they probably figured, hey, we can't really match King Kong, so we might as well make it, completely different or funnier or something. So it's one I really enjoy and still do to this day, and it still holds up in the same way for me.
Yeah, that sounds very close to my experience. Although I think, when I saw Son of Kong, I was looking for another King Kong, something similar to that. And so I was disappointed with it, but I do now. I absolutely love it. And it makes a great double feature to just watch those straight through. Mm-hmm. Because it picks up a month after King Kong ends, a couple of weeks, even something like that. So, and you kind of wonder all that, we have this movie like King Kong where there's this mass destruction in New York, and then the movie just ends, and you're kind of thinking, geez.
Yeah, what happens next?
What are the repercussions to that? Well, guess what? Lawsuits. They're after Denham. I just thought that was funny. The little bit they did at the beginning with the process servers. But yeah, I like this, to me it turns into it's just a much more friendly movie, and realize you're not going to be seeing another King Kong. So I enjoyed the heck out of it. I loved the relationship between the ship's captain and, they list her, Helen Mack, they list her character as Hilda, but she's never actually called Hilda any time in the film. Right. Apparently Denham just calls her the kid, and her father never calls her Hilda. He calls her La Bonne Helen when he introduces her.
Name. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's interesting that they gave her another name in the script that's never used. Maybe that part was cut. I don't know. But anyway, I enjoyed the heck out of this too. And I'm always love watching. Now that I know a little bit more about the effects and how they're done, I get a lot of enjoyment of watching that and trying to see, the man behind the curtain kind of thing. Not that I don't enjoy it for how good it is, but to go, oh, they use this, they use that, because I had none of that knowledge before when I was watching them. Let's just get right into kind of the star of the show, the special effects. And I think you mentioned how they used a lot of those. I thought that I had read that this part of the model used for Son of Kong was the same model they used in King Kong for, I think it was the T-Rex battle, the long face one.
Yes, the puppet that was the original King Kong, had several different puppets built. One of them they call the long face Kong, which was the puppet that was used with the battle of the T-Rex in the original King Kong. And so for Son of Kong, they stripped that puppet all the way down to the armature and rebuilt it with brand new muscles and everything, and new skin and new fur. And they made him white, and they resculpted his face so he'd look different and everything. And that's Son of Kong, which actually they named him Kiko, Kiko, which is the short for King Kong. And that never gets used anywhere, but supposedly they named him Kiko.
So yeah, something I never knew was that Willis O'Brien was not, I don't know, you correct me, Ed, but what I got was that he was not as involved with this film as he might have been because of tragedy in his life. His wife that he was separated from and his two sons during the filming, she killed their 2 sons and tried to commit suicide.
Yes, tragedy that ruined Willis O'Brien's whole career.
Yeah, and he when I tried to find, I did find a few details that said that I believe she had tuberculosis, and one of his sons had tuberculosis and had gone blind. Because
really? Wow.
For some reason. And
I did not know that.
I'm trying to see, check under, I think it was just in the Wikipedia section under Willis O'Brien, I think. And so afterwards, and she was imprisoned and died, a short few years later, I assume from tuberculosis or whatever diseases that she had. So O'Brien later remarried and had a long marriage with his second wife. But
Darlene.
Yeah, the information I saw said that Buzz Gibson ended up doing a lot of the work on this.
Yeah, apparently he, in the middle of production, this tragedy happened. And, of course, can you imagine, this happening, and you're in the middle of making a movie with a tight deadline and you have to do such, intricate, concentration on stop motion puppet stages and stuff. So, I believe he began drinking and stopped coming into the studio, and other people on the crew, his other effects technicians had to take up the slack and help finish the film.
Yeah, and another little piece of trivia there was that also that Marion Cooper and Ernest Schoedsack, who were also the producers, kind of left him alone on King Kong. But now that they had learned some more about it, they started trying to give him more input, which he wasn't all that open to, apparently. So that was another reason that he backed off. So on the film itself, it lists Willis O'Brien as chief technician, and then it lists Mario Larrinaga and Byron Crabbe as the art technicians, and then technical staff as E.B. Gibson, Marcell, Delgado, Carroll, Shepphird, Fred Reese, and W.G. White. So what was the difference? Do you know, anybody, the difference between the art technicians and the technical staff? In terms of what they did? Were the art technicians mostly matte paintings type things on, or?
Well, there's not a whole lot of matte paintings in this film, but, there was a lot of the earthquake and destruction of the island stuff, and some of the, models that had to be built for that. And, I know that Marcell Delgado, I've read the book. I have the book, The Making of King Kong, written by Orville Goldner, who was one of the guys that worked on King Kong. And in that book, it talks a lot about Mario Larrinaga and Marcell Delgado, being the guys that helped build the puppets of King Kong. And so I assume they helped build the puppets, for this.
And then also the model builders and stuff for the island and that.
Right. And the little miniature boats, like there's a scene where the bad, ship's guy, the ship captain guy, the one that kills her father, he gets bitten by a sea serpent beast, and that I believe is all done live action because it's water and you can't do stop motion water. So, they have a puppet, like a hand puppet or a puppet that's on a stick or something that comes up out of the water, and then the man is in its jaws, and he's being wangled around. The puppet's got loose joints and it's being wiggled around, and that's all live action as far as I know.
Oh, that's interesting. So I didn't think of that. Chad, what did you think of the special effects? And then I know you're kind of a fanatic about that stuff.
I know the effects were not on par with the original King Kong. I think the budget was like half of what the original Kong was. And I think even though Kong was a success, I think RKO was still in a lot of trouble money-wise. So they tried to ride the success of Kong, thinking it would make a lot of money even if the budget was lower. which I don't know if it was the case or not, but it really affected the stop motion, I think, a little bit. You can tell a lot of it is rushed and missing some, I guess you would say, key shots in between. It seems like the figures would jump a lot faster or move a lot faster.
Call that pop when your animation model pops. Yeah.
Yeah, and it would. So there was a lot of that, but it was still, to me, it doesn't take away from the charm of the movie or anything like that. But and especially watching it as a kid, you really didn't care about stuff like that. But as I've grown up and I've learned more about how the effects stuff works and the stop motion works and stuff, you start to see those little differences and everything. But like I said, it's there, but it doesn't really take away from the charm of the whole movie and the enjoyment of it. So it was not that big of a deal to me. And I always wondered too, especially at the end with the island collapsing. I think there was a scene, or in the script even, where there were a lot of dinosaur stampedes and stuff like that while the island was collapsing, and that we didn't see in the movie. That I wish we could have seen more stuff like that. But I'm sure a dinosaur stampede would. The budget was really the dinosaur stampede would have taken a lot more time and a lot more money than they had to do. So
yeah.
The cave bear battle is really good. I really like the cave bear battle.
Yeah. It was. There were some good King Kong battles. Kong battles in this that were really, really enjoyable, and that's what you really want to see. You want to see Kong fighting dinosaurs. So we got that, and yes, I don't think a prehistoric bear. I don't think anybody had seen one of those up to that point. So I don't know. It was just an enjoyable, fun film.
I think that was made specifically for this film, that cave bear. I don't think it was ever any King Kong or anything.
No.
Yeah. No, I don't think so either. Whitney, how about you? What did you think of the special effects in general, or any particular scenes that you enjoyed?
Oh, well, the bear scene is actually my favorite. I actually giggled a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially seeing that, and I'm like, man, this part right here just kind of sums up 2020 for me. And then where he backs off. Yeah, he backs off, and then oh my gosh, his name slips my mind.
Carl Denham.
Denham, and he's like, yeah, he just he's like, he's just like his old man. He scraps good or something like that. I'm like, okay, yeah, I feel like we are all kind of like that. We're all feeling that right now.
Yeah.
He's a
scrappy, yeah.
But no, I love that.
He's a scrappy little fella.
Yeah, I love that scene. I mean, I know you guys are saying like for the budget and the time and how things seemed fast paced. Yeah, I did get that things were pretty fast paced with the motion, but I mean, the bear, I loved it, and especially with some of the other creatures and their movements and stuff. I mean, the appreciation for seeing how things have to be shot a certain way, especially with the Triceratops going up and you have that up shot, like you can see it from above. I appreciate seeing things like that in motion in those angles.
That was really hard to do, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Wow. So what makes that hard to do, Ed?
Well, every single frame, you're if you were to sit there with a stopwatch and time those sequences and then think about like every single sequence has multiple characters, the bear and the King Kong miniature, the King Kong, son of Kong, and how all the facial movements, all the bites, all the swishes of tails and stuff. There's so much to keep track of. Each little limb, and then you got the miniature set with rocks and everything. It's like my wife and I have been doing stop motion here at home during COVID, just for fun on our own little tabletop sets and miniatures and stuff. And it's not easy. If you've ever tried it, boy, is it hard. It takes enormous concentration.
Yeah, especially when you got multiple things there to move in different directions each time.
Yeah, right? Multiple puppets and multiple limbs, and it's a lot of work.
I've been enjoying those, by the way. I don't know if you saw that, but I sent you a couple messages. I have fun watching those.
Thank you. Nice. Yeah, we love anybody.
Well, I'll just throw this in now. Check out Ed Martinez on his YouTube channel, and you can see some of those, right?
Our little stop motion stuff.
100 years, Ray Harryhausen.
Nice.
Yes.
We did a tribute to Ray Harryhausen when it was his 100th birthday in June of this year.
Yeah, that was fun.
Cool.
Yeah, you know what? I loved the bear battle, the cave bear, prehistoric bear battle. That one I thought was pretty smooth, but it had a lot of that comedy in it.
It's a beautiful puppet.
But also, it was almost like a wrestling match. You know?
Yeah.
It was like they were using wrestling holds, and then there's like that one scene where
he takes the stick.
Bear's like mowing down on.
Yeah, he bashes his head with him.
That bear.
Yeah, well, and the bear is kind of like hovering over Son of Kong, and then next thing you see, Son of Kong is crawling out between the bear's legs.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
he just plops down. He just sits down like,
It's like a Three Stooges move, like when there's a big group of fighters, and then Curly comes crawling out from between somebody's legs,
Yeah. Well, yeah, and so the little guy was obviously smarter, and I think they also, that's part of the humor here, is he's a lot more anthropomorphic or human-like in this than Kong was.
His dialogue, he has practically dialogue, he's all...
Yes, it was great.
Well, I like that scene, too, where he's, I think it might be when, I forget exactly when it is, but Denham and, it's hard to call her Hilda, but the Helen Mack character, are they kissing or are they sitting together or something?
Yeah, they're getting close.
Little Kong peeks around the corner and then puts his hand over his mouth and then backs away. This is fun.
Yeah, I forget if it's in the film or if it's just in the script and it didn't get shot, where he separates them. Like Kong, little baby Kong goes, uh-oh, I don't like that. I don't like the two of them getting so close. And he puts his hands in between them and pushes the two of them apart. I don't know if that's in the actual film or not, or if that was just in the script. I think that was something that got cut in the early stages. But
I don't remember seeing that, so that's cool. Wow.
That would have been funny.
And one of the other cool things is I wonder whatever happened to that cave bear puppet, because I know that the Styracosaurus, which is one of the two, lizard-like dinosaurs that fights him, that belongs to Peter Jackson now. He bought that puppet. I believe Forey Ackerman owned it for many, many years, and then when he passed away, they did a big auction, and Peter Jackson bought many of the stop-motion puppets that were from these films.
I did see that. He owned the Styracosaurus, which was the thing that looked, to me, it looked like a Triceratops, only it had 7 or 8 or 9 horns around its head. Everybody thinks that a Styracosaurus and a Triceratops are the same because they both have a shield and horns, Yeah. So that was a great scene too, I thought. And there's a lot of stuff going on there, because aren't there so I don't know the proper terms, but I felt like there was some kind of mat or overlay or something that they were using to show those guys in the cave.
Whenever you have human beings and stop motion puppets, there is some sort of a projection system going on, like rear screen projection or front screen projection, and the puppet is 3-dimensional model on a little tabletop, and the projection screen is either behind it or in the foreground or something. There's a way of matting the two pieces together.
Well, another thing I noticed is the little Kong had not developed the killer instinct yet, because he doesn't quite finish off the bear.
And the bear comes back.
Yeah. And he doesn't quite finish off that lizard thing in the cave either right away.
Right.
And he has to turn around and pound it a couple times. So,
it was like big time wrestling,
Yeah.
And it would have been kind of cool if he'd done an airplane move with the bear, but.
Well, he did like the chair with the tree trunk. He got a chair from the stand.
Yes.
And beat him with it.
Yeah. It's like pulling the chain out of your trunks or something,
And I love the interaction with, Denham when they fix his finger. When they put his little Band-Aid on.
Yeah. And they're walking away from him, and his hand's there with his middle finger sticking up with the little Band-Aid on it.
Yeah.
I love that. That was great.
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Even after the fight, he's kind of licking his finger, and it just is they've made him so much more human. or anthropomorphic.
Personality.
Right.
I love that.
I mean, Kong showed a little bit of that with his relationship with Ann Darrow.
Yeah, when he strips her clothes off and stuff.
Yeah. But he had a little bit of that in him, where he could interact with humans and like one human over another human and that kind of thing. So
it begs the question: where is Mrs. Kong?
I never made that one.
It does beg the question.
Wife of Kong.
The divorce of Kong.
Oh, God.
There was a definite trilogy waiting to happen there. But,
he lives on a separate island.
Mama Kong swims out and pulls little Kong out from the sinking island. Anyway.
I told you not to play in the backyard.
The other thing too is it's like the Statue of Liberty, the way he's holding Denham up. Spoiler alert! He dies at the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of actors that appeared in both of these films. We have Robert Armstrong as Carl Denham returns, and Frank Reicher as Captain Engelhorn, and Victor Wong as Charlie, who is awesome.
He sure is.
I love Charlie.
He goes, "You cook for yourself. Hopefully you'll die soon."
Yes.
It was hilarious.
Or, when they go to the show with the dancing monkeys and they never get to the sagacious seals, I guess. Maybe they were already on, and that monkey playing the violin, that just cracks me up.
Yeah.
I know, with his hands tied to the violin and
his
little vest, sewn to the violin so he can't let it go.
And then when Helen Mack's character comes out to sing, it's literally like Charlie is like the only person in the whole tent that's clapping. And he is very enthusiastic with his clapping at all times for the monkeys and for.
He's enjoying that show.
There were some commentaries for that too, but I'll let you finish first. Oh no, it's not just the monkey scene, but then when Hilda, when she comes out to do her thing, and then the comments are being said, he's like, "Oh," he said something about her not being much of a performer or singer or something. I'm like, "Oh my God, that's mean."
Yeah,
right to her face.
Boy, yeah, I think Denham says she's got something, and Engelhorn says it's not a voice.
Right, yeah. I'm like, wow, that's mean. Okay.
He's right here in the same tent. She can hear you.
One would think. I actually enjoyed that song. I know Chad fast forward. I played that several times and wrote the lyrics down. I got to go see if somebody else ever did that.
Amazing.
Engelhorn liked her talent.
Yes. So let's just segue into that. Helen Mack, I thought, was great. She's one of those people that we run across all the time, where I think she at least in this film, she's got a real presence, and she's able to show this. She actually shows a fair range in terms of when she stands up to Hellstrom. Boy, she's got a fierce look on her face.
Yeah.
And,
well, he murdered her father,
Yeah. And then the sort of the loving and cuteness and that and stuff with Denham. And although I don't know if they just were in love with Fay Wray's screams, but they say they use recordings of Fay Wray's screams.
She's a great screamer.
At places in this film. So I don't know if that says anything about Helen Mack screaming or if it's more about...
I think Fay Wray has great screams.
Yeah. It probably says more about Fay Wray. So what do you guys think of Helen Mack, Whitney? I'll go with you first. Let's give you a chance to go first here.
Oh, well, I mean, what you're saying about the scream, I don't know, what's behind that. But in some cases, an experience of... going back, like when they say, if you're shooting something and they say, oh, well, we'll just fix it in post,
Right.
Especially when it comes to sounds. And I have no idea what went with what direction or what they were trying to do there. But I mean, maybe it could have been a case of, maybe things were a little bit more, not just fast paced with the animation, but trying to get things done a certain way. And maybe it was just the route they went because of that. I don't know. It's just a thought.
Well, I've worked on films where they had a girl that was a really good actress, but she couldn't scream good. So they dubbed in her scream,
Gotcha. No, I'm one of those girls that's like, I feel like I scream like a boy. I'm like, no, that doesn't sound right. I don't know. So that could be possible. Yeah. But anyway, no, I thought she was, oh man, she was talented. She was beautiful. She was cute. Her personality, and then seeing that that moment on that ship when she's talking to the guy who did. I'm bad with the name right now, but he's the one. He was responsible for her father's death, and she's having that conversation. Hellstrom, yes. So she's having that conversation with him about him not wanting her to say something about what went down there with her father. So. And she's really serious there about it.
Like, he's threatening her life. He threatens her life.
Yeah, she's on to him, and she's not wanting to back down from that. And I totally respected her for just, really facing off like that instead of just being like really timid about it.
Chad, how about you? Did you enjoy Helen Mack's performance?
Oh, absolutely, especially when she was standing up to Hellstrom and the anger that she had toward him. And yeah, she did have a lot of range in this because she played that masterfully, that whole scene with Hellstrom. And I love that. That was my favorite scene with her in the movie. And she pulled it off very well. And all the other parts as too, her interactions with Denham and Captain Inglehorn and all those guys. She just felt like she was one of them, I know she was a stowaway and but she quickly became intertwined with that group, with those guys, and she seemed like she was right where she belonged. So,
yeah. Her last film was in 1945. She's got like 44 credits, but her bio says in later years she was a successful radio producer and writer. So
awesome.
stayed in the business, so to speak. Yeah. So I like it. I like when I see women moving into roles like producer and things that wouldn't normally have been thought of as a typical female role back in the day.
Oh, did I see or did I read something there where they said if we noticed that her name wasn't really mentioned, but Denham kept calling her kid?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so she is 20 at the time of this film, and Robert Armstrong, I think, is like 44, early 40s.
Wow.
So,
oh, goodness.
Little May, December. Or
Romance.
December, May. I don't know how that goes. But so Robert Armstrong, I thought, now this is another guy that's been, he was in King Kong. He was also in Most Dangerous Game, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have that right?
Yeah.
And was in a lot of stuff. He's got like 182 credits.
They probably use the same sets because for King Kong and The Most Dangerous Game, they use the same jungle sets.
No.
Cool.
Yeah.
They probably use this too.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
And he was in Mighty Joe Young too.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I thought he says he likes this movie better than King Kong just because there's a little more character development with him. He's not just a self-promoting. Yeah, his part. He's not just a self-promoting money hog, right? Who doesn't really didn't really care a whole lot about the deaths of all those crew members in King Kong.
He gets the girl in there. Gets the girl.
Yes, he does. Well, why? Of course, he would like it better. And he has a great final scene or saving scene with Son of Kong.
Very poignant.
Yes. I thought it was interesting too. This character of Nils Hellstrom. It does not appear in King Kong, but is referenced because Denham says, "I got this map from the skipper of a Norwegian bark or ship or something," and so now they put him in here, which I thought was kind of cool and sort of makes sense. I guess that's we have the same sort of story script doctor, whatever, Ruth Rose, and she also made comment about how they knew they couldn't top King Kong, so they decided the only thing to do was to make it funnier.
Yeah, she wrote King Kong. She's the script.
Yeah.
She wrote the script for King Kong.
So I thought that was interesting. It's like, I can't go bigger, so we're going to go funny.
She's the wife of the director.
Oh, she's Schoedsack's wife.
Yes.
This is one of those people that at least in IMDb, there's no bio information whatsoever.
Really?
Yeah, it gives credits and born and died. She does have a Wikipedia entry, so there is some information out there, but interesting that was never filled in. All right. Ernest B. Schoedsack.
What about him?
This will not be the last one of his films that we do. Because I have no doubt we'll do Dr. Cyclops or Most Dangerous Game or Mighty Joe Young at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I love The Most Dangerous Game. That's a great film.
I'd love to do that one. Yes.
And that's, of course, like I said, the same sets for King Kong. They kind of shot King Kong and Most Dangerous Game almost back to back or sort of simultaneously.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I also think with Dracula, the way the Mexican and Spanish Dracula was done.
Right.
Oh,
okay. Well, he's also did, and I have not seen this. I wonder if that's available, The Monkey's Paw.
Oh, wow.
A version of that sandwich in between there. So that might be interesting.
He and his wife were in, I think, where was it? Istanbul or someplace, some other country making a movie that never got finished right before they did Son of Kong. They came back to the United States and they just happened to be available. The other film got canceled. Iraq or something. They were in Iraq. They were going to make a film over there.
So I think, I want to talk a little bit about the, we already have, but it's a pretty big turnaround in the tones of the two films. With Kong, you've got this menace and destruction, and he's chomping natives, he's chomping people in New York. Oh my God, he's flinging people around and destroying trains and whatnot. Yeah. And in this one, he's Son of Kong is just, you can't say anything about it other than it's, like Whitney said, adorable, it's sweet, it's cute.
Yeah, it's like nature versus nurture in both. It seems like you have that, like you said, the destruction in the other, and then there's like more nurturing kind of going on here.
And in the very beginning, the very first time you see Son of Kong, he's helpless. He's in quicksand. The old quicksand flow.
Yeah.
It's like how those old movies and the old Republic serials and stuff. Almost every other one, quicksand. Yeah. It's like, why is quicksand so prevalent?
Yes.
Right.
I grew up on TV westerns, and there's always a quicksand episode every single. So I had a quicksand episode, and then you find out, I don't know, has anybody ever actually seen quicksand? I don't know.
It's like, where's the signs that are like, beware of quicksand?
I think even for, again, going back to some of the nurturing part, I definitely thought it spoke volumes for Hilda's character to say, well, an animal knows when we're trying to help it. So I feel like when that was established there, that shows, okay, well, there's going to be some feedback here in that nurturing part.
Yeah.
That's where you get your pathos.
Yes, and that was what sort of changed Denham. Denham was like half ready to kill it before. Good, afraid. He's trapped in the quicksand. We don't have to. So
we don't have to worry about that guy.
Chad, did you think that worked? I mean, is that
the quicksand?
No, the whole change in tone between the two movies.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay. Sometimes I'm a little slow on the uptake. So
I was just saying, Denham rescues him with the old tree trunk trick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
Or I was expecting a vine or something like normal. But it worked for me. I don't know how many other people that it would, but the tone was sort of Denham's redemption story, because they seem to be making a big deal about him having some guilt over what happened to King Kong and the damage and the people that died, and they seem to touch on that a few times in the film. But as far as the Son of Kong being a funnier character, he really did act like a little kid, and that's what they tried to play up, with the shaking of his head, like when he gets slammed on the ground and he's like, blah, 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 and so they tried to play it like that, and then being embarrassed when he was seeing them, the two of them together by the fire. And stuff like that. They really tried to play him off as a little kid. And so, it worked for me. And I liked it a lot. And watching the two films together, like I said earlier, it just makes a perfect pairing, to watch them both together.
It gives you a great overall arc for Denham.
Yeah, it does. And he kind of needed it, because he needed that arc, because you really didn't, or even when I first watched King Kong, I was like, well, what happens now? What's going to happen now? And this told
jerk of a guy destroyed our whole city.
Yeah. What's happening now? I wanted to know what happened next. And this film kind of answered that question, And so, it works for me. It works for me.
I thought it was kind of cool how they took this. He's supposed to be 12 feet. So you have this 12-foot creature that somehow or another seems to be able to always be looking out from behind the edges or around corners to see what's going on between Denham and Helen. Yeah. That was kind of a nice little twist. Chad, I know you got to go. And we had a late start because we had some technical issues here, which, can't be avoided sometimes. So, but great having you on. Any quick last statement you want to make before you have to take off?
Well, as far as the movie goes, you got to watch this. If you've never seen it, there's plenty of places you can watch it now. And if you have not seen it, I highly recommend watching it. It was great. I was glad to be able to talk about this. It's one of my favorite movies. And I'm glad to be able to talk with Ed about it, and you guys too, the normal crew that's here, you and Whitney, and just great. So, that's, I love this film. It's a great film.
Great to hear from you.
Yeah, same here, Ed. And hopefully, it won't be the last time,
Yeah.
So
that's one of my
favorites.
Got that in common.
Yeah. So
thanks, bud. Have fun.
Yep. You guys have a great rest of the show.
You take care.
Yep.
Right.
You too.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
All right. I don't know. We may be fairly close to tying up here. Anything you wanted to talk about, Ed, that we haven't touched on?
Well, I was just going to say that, a couple of the things that were really impressive to me was like the stop motion, of course, but also the live action stuff, like that weird, monster that comes from the water and bites the guy, the bad captain, he gets
yes.
hurt.
Yeah.
And that was done with a little live action shot, with the real water and with a puppet, like a little loosely jointed figure of a human in the mouth of the dinosaur thing, and then all the all the rocks and the mountains and things as they dissolve and break apart, and like that's all done live action.
They sunk an island for this film.
Yeah. So, all that kind of stuff was pretty impressive too, and of course, we know that, like we were talking about, the budget was much lower, and that apparently there was one version of the script, an early version of the script, that had all those things in it that had to be cut out, like the dinosaur stampedes and more shots of the destruction of, the island, of course, we couldn't be too elaborate with the budget they had. But other than that, I think it was really a good film, and I love it, in comparison, with, watching it, like you say, like King Kong and then Son of Kong, and the creature is so cute, and the other monsters, like the cave bear is fantastic. Like I say, it's neat that Peter Jackson, bought at some auction, and owns in his private collection now some of the original stop motion puppets from King Kong, and now, also that were used in this, Son of Kong. But I wonder what happened to that cave bear. And, there's all these other things, left over sometimes from movies like this. And I wonder, like what happened to the idol, that weird stone idol, that the prop of that, and just on and on. I could go on about this movie.
Well, that, I think it's the didn't he use, trying to think.
The two lizard-like dinosaurs were definitely in King Kong, or at the test footage, I believe, from Creation or something, which was how they got the
right
go ahead. They got the green light to do King Kong. He showed, Ernest B. Schoedsack and Marion C. Cooper, the original footage that he was using, for the movie Creation that never got finished, Willis O'Brien, and it had all these dinosaurs, and those guys said, wow, we want to do this giant ape movie. And they were thinking of actually using either a real gorilla or a man in a suit or something like that, because at that time, there were these crazy movies that would play, these short films that would play around, like, Thomas Edison and the early black and white silent filmmakers would make these short films, like a train, coming straight at the audience and stuff. And there were some that had gorillas that were like a man in a suit, but the gorilla was so good that it looked like a real gorilla to the audiences back in those times. And so they would like grab a woman, and pick her up over her shoulder and run off camera, and people would freak out seeing that stuff. Those kind of films made so much money that those guys said, we could make a crazy gorilla movie too, but they didn't know about stop motion, and they saw that footage from Creation, and that's what gave them the idea, like, let's get this guy to make our giant monkey movie,
And in fact, just for listeners, we did do King Kong in episode 4.
Cool.
We do get into a lot of detail on Cooper and Schoedsack and that kind of stuff. So check that one out. That was actually almost 4 years ago. We tried to time that with the release of Kong Skull Island. In terms of
a lot of interest in now, Godzilla versus King Kong and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And the other interesting thing, there's a weird anecdotal story about, some of the projects that Willis O'Brien never got to complete. Like he had this one called War Eagles that was going to involve stop motion giant eagles, and Gwangi, Valley of the Gwangi, which Ray Harryhausen eventually made. But, he had lots of ideas. And, one of the things, unfortunately that happened, was the death of his sons, and, the tragedy, which really derailed his career, and many of those ideas never came to fruition, because of, I believe that really made the rest of his career. I think he was 45 or something. It wasn't a young man when that happened. And so it really derailed his career. And Mighty Joe Young was one of the other films made much later. I think this was 33. Mighty Joe Young is 45, I believe, something like that. And Ray Harryhausen did work on that, not Son of Kong.
Right.
The puppets that they made, for these films back in King Kong and Son of Kong and stuff, were the build-up technique, where they muscle by muscle, they would build it up with like cotton and latex and stuff, not the sculpted, molded, cast in foam latex technique that mostly is used, by Ray Harryhausen and stuff. So it's really weird. It's like the men that built these puppets, I believe they originally came from the taxidermy business, and that's where Willis O'Brien found some of them, to come to work for him. They had to put pelts, from animals like rabbits and stuff to make the fur, for King Kong and for Son of Kong. So a man who had taxidermy experience, was useful on making little furred puppets.
Like, I actually really enjoyed seeing that bear.
The bear was beautiful. That bear was a beautiful piece of work.
Yeah, that was decent. I did notice, like, for instance, when they get Little Kong out of the quicksand, then, when he first comes out, they're showing him kind of half covered with yuck, I guess. But then it disappears pretty quickly.
As a stop motion thing, that's a very difficult problem when you have water or when you have something liquidy like quicksand. You got to figure out, like, okay, how are we going to animate that? How is it going to work on the fur? Like, there's so many issues and problems that I'm surprised they even used quicksand. They must have figured out some way, like maybe they used oatmeal or something that could be kind of thick and not, jitter, because that's the problem with fur, like they had with King Kong. When you handle the puppet, the hair on the body, your fingers touch the fur every frame, and so when you're done, it looks like it's boiling. It looks like it's churning. The fur is churning. And in the first movie, they got away with it, and they said, "Oh, look, Kong's mad. He's bristling. He's so mad."
I was going for the wind blowing.
Well, it's so unpredictable, because the hands are having to grip the puppet in various places, to move him frame by frame.
Yeah, it is a sad story about Willis O'Brien, which we run across these quite a bit, where so we kind of like to publicize the success stories as well of people like Helen Mack that moved on to successful careers.
Well, the thing about Willis O'Brien is that he is such a pioneer and he is such a father of special effects and stop motion that, actually I'm, living in the San Francisco Bay Area, and he was from Oakland, California, which is right across the bay, from San Francisco. And in San Francisco at the Presidio, which is where the buildings are for Lucasfilm, they've got all their Lucasfilm, division over there now, they have bronze statues dedicated to people like Willis O'Brien in the foyer and in the little garden area. They have like a Yoda, a bronze Yoda. They got a Darth Vader. They have a statue of Willis O'Brien holding a King Kong armature done in bronze to commemorate and memorialize him. And I've been at a couple of different events. I worked on a convention. I got to meet Orville Goldner, one of the last living technicians who worked on King Kong, who wrote that book, The Making of King Kong, in 1978. I was young, but I got to work on a convention here in San Jose, California, and he came up and was helping, by doing talks and panel discussions, and was bringing his book to autograph for people. And it was such a wonderful opportunity. I've gotten to meet over the years some of the masters, Ray Harryhausen himself, and people like Linwood Dunn, who's like the father of the optical printer, who also worked on King Kong and Citizen Kane. And I've been very lucky.
Well, there was actually a scene from this spliced into Citizen Kane, correct?
Yeah, apparently some birds. I'm not even familiar with that scene. It's like apparently Kane and a couple of other actors are viewing something either out a window, like, Xanadu is the place where it's the San Simeon Castle here in California is where, the real William Randolph Hearst owned and in the movie, that's who the movie is supposed to be about. And so he has a place that's the same in the story of the movie, but they call it Xanadu. And so supposedly they're like looking out of a window or something at Xanadu, where you see something in the window, flying birds or something. And that's supposedly the scenes of pterodactyls, which, wow, I'm like, why is the pterodactyl scene in Citizen Kane? I don't know. It's a head scratcher for me.
Yeah, I don't know. We have found things in IMDb that are flat out wrong. Like I mentioned to you how the Pumpkinhead, the crafters of the feature aren't listed, and there was a thing for when we did Cycle of the Werewolf, and I don't want to get the guy. Is it Roy Ashton did a lot of the hammer effects?
Yes.
Are you familiar with him? Where in almost every place you look online, you find it says that he modeled it after the Wolfman in the Universal Wolfman, but the people that knew him,
it's not.
Yeah, if you find it, if you can find it. It's like somebody put that in there and then it got copied into every database article.
Right,
and
It's often they do that. They'll quote something incorrectly and then it just goes down in history that way.
Yeah. And as it turned out, he absolutely did not. There's whole books of concept drawings and stuff of him developing that look. And he has flat out said it wasn't based on that. So, and just kind of have to look at it, I guess. All right. Whitney. Any last comments you want to make about this film?
Oh gosh, it's just been so long, and it was ago. Well, it's just been such a long time since I've been able to see this. I said earlier on. I mean, my brother was the one that he was really. If it weren't for him, I probably wouldn't have given it as much of a chance to sit down. I really appreciate my brother's interest. I guess.
Your brother corrupted you, right? Your brother.
I loved it. Yes, my brother and cousins, like they were more. I mean, okay, if it wasn't having that relationship of growing up with the guys in my family, I probably wouldn't be as into adventure and horror as I was because of
goodness for evil brothers.
I love it. I love it. Yes, well. But the cool thing is that this is still being passed down from my brother to my younger nephews. Like he loves he loves King Kong, he loves Godzilla, and now when I hear or speak to my nephews, they're like 5 years old and 3 years old, and they talk about King Kong, they talk about Godzilla, like they're telling me about, they have this toy called the Mecha Godzilla, but I'm getting off track here. Like they love these things, and but my thing is just knowing that my brother has so much of a passion for it, and if it wasn't for my brother, then he did corrupt me. This one is such a family movie.
Yeah.
Like this one is
really.
It really is. It's a personable one. It's fun to watch. It's beautiful to look at because of the action, the adventure, the fantasy. Yes, the horror elements, and then that back and forth when you can appreciate when you're an adult seeing that.
It's sad too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the tragic ending. Yes.
That's something else. Yes, towards the end, but yes, overall it's fun. But yeah, at the end, I'm like, oh no, he drowned. That's so sad. But yes, I loved it. I say anyone to give it a chance because it really is classic, and it's just something that just keeps going, and it's just passed down. I mean, like my nephews, for example, they love this stuff now.
That's great.
That's cool. That's cool. I've got a grandson who's and his mother who are very avid horror fans, and another grandson he really loves the creature features stuff. So
give him some action figures of monsters.
Yeah. Well, I had I showed King Kong to one of my grandsons when he was like 5, I think, maybe 6, cool. And he was like, "Oh, that's so fake." And so then we literally like stopped the movie and had a discussion about stop motion, and we got him to kind of understand it based on the idea of the flip page animation. When you fan the pages of a book and you have a series of drawings, it's to get him to understand how difficult that was and how they didn't have computers 90 years ago. yeah there you go.
Yes, I remember that.
All right, so I love this movie too, and it's God, I hate saying this. And is it a horror movie? Well, we got stop motion animation. We got
monsters,
monsters battling monsters. We have an evil boat captain chomped by a sea serpent.
Yes.
So yeah, and an island sinks, and
maybe cannibals. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe cannibals. Yeah. You know what? I should mention this too, because we talked about him when we did King Kong quite a bit. But Noble Johnson is quite an interesting character.
He's in lots of movies, westerns, all sorts of things.
Oh, well, and he was a trying to remember this right now.
Doorman or something, I think, originally.
Well, I'm doing a real quick look. He was a writer and producer too, and did a couple of silent films, shorts. One called "The Realization of a Negro's Ambition," and the second one called "The Right of Birth," where the lead characters were like an architect.
Awesome.
So
I didn't know that. I knew he had been Indians and all sorts of things. He had been a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. He's actually the Most Dangerous Game.
Yes, yes. He's like the bad guy, right-hand man or something.
He's in Universal's The Mummy.
Yep.
144 acting credits. So
I think he's in Gone with the Wind. I mean, he's in tons of things.
Yeah, John Wayne film. She Wore a Yellow Ribbon. He played Chief Redshirt. So you kind of get relegated to ethnic roles, which is too bad. But he was able, I think, to make a decent living and build up a reputation. So
the interesting is the language of the natives. Like Ray Harryhausen could quote "Mala." Like he knew the
words. Sort of like people learn Klingon now, right?
Exactly. He memorized it. He loved King Kong so much. He memorized the native language.
All right. Well, I think it's time to wrap things up here. That's it for this episode. But remember, every 2 weeks, we focus on a specific film released between 1920 and 1969. Next up is a Hammer classic, The Mummy, from 1959, directed by Terence Fisher and starring Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, and Yvonne Furneaux. So stay tuned for that one. There's plenty of ways to stay in touch. Please send feedback to feedback@gruesomemagazine.com or leave comments on Gruesome Magazine's YouTube channel or on the H&R and DOH podcast Facebook group or just at gruesomemagazine.com. We really appreciate comments, so let us know how we're doing, give us movie ideas, etc. So, and thank you again to Ed. We sure do. We really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Really enjoyed your insight on this. And big thanks to your wife, Nina, for putting up with you and I shouting instructions. Even though we couldn't. We couldn't even see what she saw. So, well, she got it taken care of. So, appreciate that. All right, everybody, say good night.
Thanks a lot. Good night.
Good night.